Here is a selection of works created using slips as a decorative element. I will try to explain using images of the pieces. This method is a form of monoprinting with slips. The slips are first painted onto a tightly stretched absorbent cotton cloth. The foreground is applied first. This is usually the outline in black slip, as the finished print will be inverted onto a rolled clay slab. The clay slab itself is brushed with slip to make sure the monoprint adheres to the slab. The top of the cloth can be rolled over with a rolling pin to expel any air trapped in the print. The print and slab are then left to dry up a bit to the point when the cotton cloth can be pulled from the slab from a corner of the cloth. The cloth should be pulled off at a low angle with your hand being almost against the surface of the slab. The slab should be at a leather-hard stage, as then the slip should not pull away with the cloth. The slabs once completed can be lightly rolled over with a clean cloth that has a very small weave. This will smooth out the surface and mechanically consolidate your pattern to the slab. The slabs can then be used to construct your slab-built pieces. Remember when looking at these surfaces that the foreground slips were applied to the cloth first and the background was applied last. I use a slip that is on the thicker side so that it is not too wet and that it does not run over the surface but stays exactly where it is placed on the cloth. Each slip must first be dried a little with a heat gun before the next slip is applied, otherwise the slips will mix. Remember here that the decoration sits in the surface, therefore after bisque fire the piece can be lightly sanded down with wet and dry sandpaper to smooth the surface and define the pattern clearly. Here are a few more examples of slab building with the monoprinted decorated slabs. Now this method does not have to be just applied to a rolled slab. Once the monoprint has been applied to the cloth, it can also be cut into shapes and applied to a turned pot or any other clay surface that has been slipped. I apply the monoprint to a freshly trimmed down pot that has been lightly slipped to receive the print. Drying the monoprint slightly does make it easier to cut the cloth underneath. Here you can see that I have used a stencil to make the patterns of the decoration. Note that when using the stencil, you can also not slip the background in. This will give a sort of sprig mold look to the decoration. The stencil can also be very roughly colored in with slips for a more abstract decoration. Once the monoprint has been applied to the surface, give the slip time to firmly adhere to the surface before removing the cloth. Remember that the slip decoration can always be neatened up after bisque fire with sandpaper due to the thickness of the slip. Another good tip is that when the monoprint has been applied to the surface and the backing cloth is still on, then the pattern can be gently worked onto the surface by working with a rubber kidney tool against the cloth.